I'm feverishly drawing and drawing. It just feels natural. Negotiating with Disney is not so much good cop, bad cop, but bad cop, antichrist. I get up at 6 in the morning and I'll draw until 10 at night, and I can usually do about 100 drawings a day.
Don't you have life?
No. Thank you.
How many drawings is that?
It was 40,000 drawings, and I did every drawing you see on the film. Nobody else did any animation. My studio was about 10 people, and most of them were artists who did the coloring. And the coloring was this very special technique. It's kind of a watercolor. It's what I did when I was an illustrator doing stuff for Playboy and Penthouse and Vanity Fair. And when I started this film, Desiree showed me this digital watercolor technique that I could use, and I fell in love with it. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. However, we had to hire more artists to do the coloring, and that put us way over budget. So 6 months before the film was supposed to be finished, I was dead broke. And that's when we went to Kickstarter and saved our butts.
It's better to be dead broke than dead,
That's true.
So I'm very happy you run the Kickstarter campaign and came back to life.
Yes.
So 40,000 drawings is a lot of drawings, guys, right? I mean, somebody complained that they did 10 drawings and they got tendonitis. So how many drawings a day do you do to be able to achieve this?
For this film, I did about 100 drawings a day, and they're pretty big drawings. I forgot to bring them out here, but they're pretty big and they're pretty detailed. So I get up at 6 in the morning and I'll draw until 10 at night, and I can usually do about 100 drawings a day.
Don't you have life?
No.
I mean,
no. On weekends I'll go see a movie or go see friends or,
And how do you avoid tendonitis?
It's good exercise. My hand feels great. And actually, one time I was at Comic-Con, and someone said the same question. And they said, can you do your drawing left-handed? And so I said, no, I'd never tried it before. So I did it, and it actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, maybe you should draw with your toes. I think that seems like drawings keep pouring out of you. You can't help it.
Well, it was my goal at a very early age. When I was 6 or 7 years old, I saw the Disney films and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make people laugh with my drawings, and so I really feel blessed that I'm able to make a living. Not a great living, but I get by doing my animation, and that's all I ask.
I have a question. Knowing your previous work, it's from a woman's point of view, it's pretty sexist because it was. No, don't laugh. It's not funny. Because you just drew the sexual, the fantasy of a woman. It was just like whatever fantasy you have, what women are. It was kind of like a walking cardboards, right?
I started off doing Playboy, Penthouse, Screw, Hustler, right. So it makes sense.
This film, though, and I don't know, you guys agree with me or not. Most of the film, it was made from woman's point of view. Like it was how woman saw her husband, betrayal, what she wanted to do. What happened? How you were able to go there?
Yeah, a lot of the criticism I've been getting on my previous films where they were just too much sex and violence and gags. And I've kind of felt hurt by that, so I wanted to get more into the relationships, more into the personalities, more into the psychology of these people. And it just seemed appropriate that the star of the film would be a woman, and Ella's her name, and we could see this relationship from her side. In fact, one of the initial ideas I had for this film was this concept that this woman loved her husband so much that she was willing to let him have other women as long as she could be there to enjoy his lovemaking.
But isn't that the ultimate male fantasy?
Of course it is, yeah. But it could go the other way too. Men could say the same thing about their wives. They could still. You could go either way. But that's how I originally had that idea of this woman, of the soul machine, the trans soul machine, that her body could be transported into the bodies of these sluts, and she could experience the lovemaking. Another thing, I don't know if you noticed that, but when I initially designed Jake, his nose was not a penis. And I don't know what happened, but about halfway through the film, I started noticing that it kind of looked nice that way. So I just kept it in there. So if you'll see Jake in the beginning, it's not so pronounced.
Yeah, no, that was my favorite part about the film. I was every time, it was not just a penis, it was an erect penis. Well, in the beginning of the film, introducing the film, you mentioned that this film was based on a real relationship that you had. And I'm just curious if the woman who you had a relationship with seen the film and what she thinks about it.
I would have no idea. I've never talked to her for a long time. I will see her occasionally at events, and she turns around and walks away. So I have no idea. And I really don't want to know. You know, I just...
Maybe she's here. The question I want to ask you is technology. You're still doing drawings by hand. You still don't really know how to open your emails. So how this technology in 2015 help you or hinder you, or what does it do for you?
Well, I started making films back in, I think, 87, 86, something like that. And that was a different era. We dealt with Kodak film. I had to go out and buy these big cans of Kodak film for hundreds of dollars. We shot it on a giant rostrum camera. We had to take it to the lab, get processed, have negative, do internegative, interpositive, optical soundtracks, all this stuff. It was really a nightmare. Half of my budgets went into just the technical side of making a film. Now, thank God, it's all done digitally. I take my drawings and we scan them on a scanner, and then my staff colors them and composites them into a film. And if there's a mistake, we just digitally erase it and fix it. Also, we don't have to ship these heavy, big canisters of films, which are a big pain to take to the post office. And now we just do a file, you know, or send a JPEG or something like that. And I'm sure you felt the same thing. It's so much easier now. I think about 5% of my budgets now goes into the technical side of making a movie. So that means that you know, 45% of my budget now goes right into the art of the film, and that's the way it should be, and that's why I'm so happy about this process.
But there's another way how technology helped you with...
What's that? You mean Kickstarter?
Yeah, fundraising.
Yeah, fundraising, yeah. I mean, you've heard the story a million times. I'm going to repeat it. I mean, from other filmmakers, I used to have to go out to L.A. and do the dog and pony show and pitch, and always they said no, simply because, first of all, my films are not made with computers, and second, they're not made for children. And so I was really wasting my time out there. I remember one producer asked me to send a script of this film. I said, well, you know, there's no dialogue. It's really hard to write a script. He said, well, I don't care. We have to have a script. And so I would have had to write a description of every frame on here for him to have a script.
Did you do that?
No, I didn't. It's totally absurd. And so that's why it's so great to just go to my fans for money. And these are the people who really are, who really want to see the film. And not these producers in Hollywood. They couldn't care less. So it just seems like the perfect answer to my prayers to be able to go to my fans to raise money.
And yep, the other question I have is, why are you here? Like, you know, look at this like small little theater. You're talking to me, another independent animator, and in New York on a rainy night. Why are you not in LA, in basking in a fame and glory, having bungalow or a fancy house and 3 cars and a mistress and a wife? You know, like
well, I'll answer that question. I don't know how many of you have heard the Disney story. I don't want to bore you. How many people heard the Disney story? Oh, good, good, good. Um, so what happened when I was younger? I loved Disney, and that was my goal in life, was to work for Disney. And I sent off a packet of drawings. I think I was 16 or 17 or something, and they wrote a polite letter back saying, "You're too young. Come back in 10 years." So I kind of forgot about it. And then when I got nominated for an Oscar back in 1987. Actually, it was 88. Disney Studios sent a lawyer to my office in Chelsea. I live in Chelsea now. And he comes in with a big suit and tie and a big briefcase. He sits down, looks me in the eye, and says, "Disney Studios wants to offer you $1 million to come work for us." I go, yeah, finally, they realize my talent. They realize I'm the savior for their studio. I'll make them $1 million,
They wanted you to make Frozen?
No. That would be interesting. I would like to see that.
I would love to see. I'd pay.
Yeah. Anyway, they didn't tell me what they wanted me for, but people say negotiating with Disney is not so much good cop, bad cop, but bad cop, antichrist. And I think there's some truth to that. For example, I said, "Well, can I make my crazy little short films on the weekends?" He said, "Yeah, you can do that, but Disney will own those." I said, "What happens if I tell someone a funny story?" "Well, that's Disney's." "What happens if I have a dream?" "Well, that's ours." And it's just, Disney wants to own your soul, which isn't a bad thing if you really love Disney and you want to commit your life to Disney. But I wasn't really ready to do that. I really wanted to make my own films. So I said no. And I'm not recommending that to everybody. I mean, I think that's a good thing to work for Disney and make $1 million. But I get to stay here in the city, and I wake up every morning, I go to my drawing board, and nobody tells me what to draw or what not to draw. And to me, that's worth more than $1 million. And that's why I love Kickstarter, and that's why I want to remain independent. Thank you.
I think we can open up to audience questions, if you have any questions.
There's a microphone going around.
There's a question.
I really like how there was no dialogue.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful decision. It allows you to really take in the artwork instead of constantly pay attention to blah blah blah. But my question is, when you in the recording process, do the actors are they just improvising the sounds and their special language?
Right. I will have to tell you that I wasn't there during the recording session. My sound designer, Weston Funger, brought in his favorite voiceover artists, and they did it. I would come by and hear the sounds they made, and I would make some comments on them, but it really is not that. I don't know. I'm not that involved in the voices and that sort of thing. Certainly, the sound effects, I do take a lot of care with that, and the sound mix and that part of it. But most of it is just grunting anyway, that kind of stuff. So
How about music? How involved you were with music?
the music is different. The music is very very important to me. In fact, when I started doing the storyboard for this film, I knew it was going to be a very passionate film, very exaggerated emotions and strong romance and emotions, and so it sort of felt like an opera. And so that's when I decided to use Nicole Renaud, who I've used since I think 2000. I've been using her music off and on. And so I invited her to come by. About 6 months before the end of the film, we showed her a pencil test of some of the finished shots and the story. And we went through it shot by shot, and I told her what I wanted here, what I wanted there. And she came back about a month later with some rough music. And that's when I said, yeah, I love that. I don't like that, speed that up or whatever. So she was a very integral part, simply because there's no dialogue, and the music really became the dialogue of the film. And that's why it was so great to use Nicole.
The music was great, just amazing. Any other questions? There's a question.
Hi. I'm wondering, when you're drawing this film, do you work entirely in chronological order, even in moment to moment, scene to scene? Or you find yourself drawing the same pictures over and over again, or do you just tend to jump around and fill in?
I like to draw in chronological order. I actually put the storyboard, it's in a book format, and I put it on top of my drawing board, and I start with panel 1, scene 1, and do that one, and then the next one, so I can follow the emotions of the characters and the plotting and the tempo and everything. One of the interesting aspects of this film was when the hitman was getting bulked up. You know, he's putting on all his guns and bombs and grenades and everything. And the final bit was the stapler and the nipple. And as I was drawing the nipple, I said, geez, that looks like a face. It looks like a smiley face. And then I looked at the next frame, and it was him yelling. And I thought, it's just so simple just to have that smile in the nipple open up and become the screaming guy. And that was not in the storyboard, and I just sort of improvised it right there. It was only about 6 drawings, maybe 7 drawings, something like that. So it's just part of the mood I'm in. You know, I'm feverishly drawing, it just feels natural. It really just flows.
Bill, can you talk a little bit more about Nipples? Because no, because you had this other, another film in Hair High, you had the nipple being pulled out and with the fork stabbed.
Yeah, and then there was one where the nipples pokes the guy's eye out, and it is skewered like a barbecue, and the eye comes out. Nipples are very engaging. I don't know why. I mean, not just male nipples, female nipples too. They're very interesting to me. I find them very fascinating. So, and you're not going to see a Disney film with nipples or Pixar film. So someone's got to do it, right?
I would like to see a Frozen with nipples. Like, would you work on that? I give $10 for Kickstarter.
Okay,
campaign.
that's my next film.
Do we have time for more questions? More questions? So
If you ask a question,
Oh yeah, I forgot.
you get a free poster.
Yeah, we have a couple posters left, and I'll sign them for you. And if you ask a question, we'll give you a poster. This gentleman here has one. We should give one to the other 2 people too who ask questions.
Yeah, you basically give gas attendants a lot of inspiration with this one. So what made you
Thank you.
decide to give him that profession?
My first job out of high school, actually I was in high school, was at a grocery store right next to those little single pump, maybe it's a double pump gas station. And it just had so much charisma, and the gas station attendants were so interesting. They work on cars all day long. I just thought it'd be fun to do it. And then also it's kind of something sexual about gas pumping guys. I don't know. It just seems very erotic.
They put things in, right? They put things in holes.
Yeah, and then they take them out.
Eject, ejaculate. You know.
Yes,
yeah.
that's true. Give this man a poster here. It's a good question.
What were the inspirations for the vehicles? They looked very sort of 1940s style. Was that intentional?
Yeah, if I drew the cars today, I find them very boring. Really, they all look the same, and they have no outstanding features. And for me, I love the 40s and 50s cars. They seem more interesting to draw. Also, I get a lot of questions about where does this take place and when does it take place, and I really don't know. It's kind of a never land. The music is European, the architecture is kind of southwestern, New Mexico, Arizona, border town, kind of sleazy border town. The fashions are kind of 50s. And of course the cars are I love those headlights that kind of stick out and the wheel wells that stick out. They're really fun to draw. So I like films that show you a time and place that you've never been to before. Like Star Wars is like a whole different world, and I wanted to create a whole unique world that is fun to visit and interesting to go to, and hopefully you'll want to stay there. I should mention that James M. Cain was a big influence on this film. His films, Double Indemnity, Mildred Pierce, and Postman Rings Twice are all about cheating lovers and people who have ulterior motives and kind of sleazy motives. And I love that kind of film noir storytelling. And so this is kind of a cartoon noir storytelling, and that's the kind of stuff I like to do.
Hi. Hi. If I could go back to the music for just a minute, because I am an opera singer, and I wasn't actually familiar with your work before. I certainly will look investigate more. But it looked like, particularly in the kitchen scene with the Brindisi, that some of the words from the actual opera were mimicked. So did you have a full understanding of the music that was chosen? And I mean, the Brindisi is very passionate, and it was perfect, as was the Pagliacci when he's crying. But did you understand that? And so did all of that?
I did not, and it's interesting you brought that up, because I just did some press last week, and one of the questioners knew the song and knew the translation of the lyrics. And he said they actually do match the emotions that are on the screen. Yeah, I don't know Italian. I don't speak Italian, and I just thought it was a nice melody. And even though I didn't know the words, I thought it was just had the right spirit. So that's why I use that song. Go ahead.
I am an opera singer, you can tell. No, without the mic. So are you interested in doing more things that would incorporate that kind of music? Because I'm looking for, and if there are any animators out there, how to introduce more opera.
Sure. I mean, I'll be outside at the table signing, giving your drawings out, and also I'll be selling posters and books and DVDs. Yeah, I'm always interested in hearing music. I'll be honest with you, though, my preference is country western. I like old country western. In fact, I'd love to make a film just with old Hank Williams songs. I think it'd be a really cool animated film. But you never know what my next project will be, you know. And there's always, I always like to keep different kinds of music in the in my films. So definitely stop by. Mm-hmm.
There's a question.
Hi, I just have a question about, I guess, your work ethic and pacing. You mentioned 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I found myself, you know, being able to go and work with something that I'm passionate about, but sometimes burning myself out. You know, how do you figure out a balance of working your butt off to make your dreams a reality, but not doing it so much so that you're just so fatigued and you almost lose passion for what you're doing?
That's a really important question, and it's something that I get a lot from students. I lecture a lot at schools and Pixar and places like that. And I tell people that if they're not really excited about getting up at 6 in the morning doing their project, then it's probably not the right project for them. I get up for the pure joy of drawing and the pure joy of making these characters come alive. And it's I don't know why I do that. I mean, I don't know why I have that love for drawing all day long. But I'm happy that I do, and it's paid off. You know, I've done 10 feature films and almost 80 shorts within the span of 30 years, almost 15 hours of animation. So it's a lot of films. And it always seems like a pleasurable experience to me. And if it's not pleasurable, then I stop and either change it or go on to something else.
How often does that happen?
Very rarely. Very rare. I've never really stopped a project that I started in. Thank you so much for coming, and thank Kickstarter for inviting me.